The utensil in my hand quivered before it achieved my mouth, the saccharine glaze dripping from the seared root vegetables suddenly unappealing. My father's voice still reverberated, acute as shattered glass. "You're nothing but superfluous ballast. It's time you departed." The dining chamber descended into an uneasy stillness, the kind where even the most subdued sounds feel magnified. The abrasion of a carving tool, the leisurely tick of the wall clock, the chime of a goblet settling onto the table. My mother Emily scrutinized her plate as if deciphering a clandestine missive in her untouched peas. Across from me, my younger brother David stared at his water vessel, feigning not to hear. It is the timing that insighs deepest. I'd spent the whole forenoon preparing the meal, insaturating the air with the aroma of rosemary and seared fowl, while the others reclined in front of the television. Only an hour earlier, I'd shared my exhilaration about a remuneration increase at work. Now encircled by the very repast I concocted, I've been pronounced undesired. The irony burns. My designation is on the invoices that maintain the illumination, on the vouchers for the provisions covering this surface, on the statement that defrayed my mother Emily's recent prescriptions. Yet here I sit, cast as the burden. I lowered my utensil, placed the napkin on my lap, and looked directly at my father. His mandible is tense, awaiting me to crumble. But instead of shattering, I heard myself state calmly, "I comprehend perfectly." Rest was unattainable. At 2 in the morning I found myself on the bedroom floor, surrounded by partially packed boxes, and the steady hum of my device charging on the nightstand. Each garment I folded into the valise felt heavier than the preceding one, as if textile alone conveyed the weight of treachery. I reached into my desk for the dossier where I retained utility invoices, remuneration slips, and vouchers proof of how much I'd shouldered. That's when I noticed a small collection of envelopes concealed beneath them, all with my father's name. Curiosity pricked as I tore one open. A financial institution statement. Then another, and another. The figures escalated as I flipped through, balances climbing each month while I depleted my savings to sustain this kinship. My gullet tightened as I reached a polished pamphlet tucked at the base. A fishing vessel complete with handwritten annotations in my father's blocky script. Initial payment $5,500. Scheduled delivery after Thanksgiving. I pressed my hands against my knees, endeavoring to steady the trembling, while I skipped midday meals to cover the electricity bill. He had been planning weekend excursions on the water. A gentle rap broke my spiral. David slipped into the chamber, his eyes darting toward the partially zipped valise. "You're genuinely departing," he whispered. Asterisk, asterisk, I don't possess a choice, I said, sliding the bank statements into my bag. His lip quivered. "Mom, Emily, and Dad. They've been discussing that boat for weeks. They waited for you to defray the invoices before articulating anything." The phrases hollowed me out, but his guilt-stricken eyes prevented me from turning it against him. He was just a youth caught in the crossfire. 3 days later, I sat on the verge of a borrowed settee in my friend Charlotte's flat, my existence reduced to 2 valises and a cardboard container stacked by the wall. Each chime of my device sent dread crawling up my spine. Aunts, cousins, distant relations. They all had their version of events fed to them by my father. "You abandoned your kin. You fractured your mother Emily's heart." I didn't reply. Instead, I contacted the utility corporations, the assurance provider, even the internet service. One by one, I removed my designation, severing the final threads they might tug to pull me back into their clutch. The representative at the electric company chuckled. "Prudent maneuver," she said. "Your father contacted us yesterday endeavoring to revert it back under your name." That evening, Charlotte's flat. John, the roommate, tossed me a squeaky tennis orb. His golden retriever bounded after it, tail wagging furiously, then dropped it in my lap. For the inaugural time in days, I laughed loud, unguarded. The sound startled me as though it pertained to someone else. But peace was fragile. A week later, pounding rattled the apartment entrance. My father's voice bellowed from the corridor, demanding I return, accusing me of treachery. I dialed 911 with steady fingers. By the time officers led him away in restraints, I knew I'd never re-enter that residence again. Months have passed now. I reside in a minor studio with teal walls I decorated myself. The invoices on my counter bear only my designation. On Thanksgiving, I prepared a simple evening meal. No extravagant feast, just sufficient for Charlotte, John, the roommate, and David, who now spends weekends with me. As we raised our goblets, I felt something my parents never furnished me: unconditional family.